AC Milan is a European giant. I personally grew up watching one of the strongest Milan sides in history, led by legends like Shevchenko, Kaká, Inzaghi. They reached the Champions League final 3 times in 5 years, win the title twice, and losing one against Liverpool in a very tragic manner. After 27, Milan sort of lost their European brightness. They didn't get past the round of 16 for their next 3 seasons. It was expected though, with their best players getting old and losing their star Kaká to Real Madrid. To solve the situation, they kinda went for a weird approach, signing football legends well past their prime like Ronaldo in 27, Ronaldinho in 28, and Beckham in 29. They were still a giant pillar in European football though, and let me remind you that the Calcio back then was one of the strongest leagues in the world. After a disappointing season, failing to qualify for the Champions League, ending 5th in 2008, they finished 3rd in 2009 and 2010, and they managed to win the Calcio in 2011. Led by Ibrahimovic, they dominated Italian football, losing only 4 games in the season, and that, ladies and gentlemen, was the last spark of AC Milan for a while. For the following season, Milan didn't make any remarkable signings. They also lost Pirlo to Juventus. They finished 2nd and lost Champions League quarterfinal against Barcelona. They didn't win anything in 2012, but it wasn't a disastrous season by any means, right? But summer of 2012, everything will change. From losing the team's most important players like Zlatan and Thiago Silva to PSG, to the departure of old guard like Seedorf, Gattuso, Nesta, Van Bommel, Milan were left with nothing. They didn't make any good signings this summer other than Mario Balotelli. It was very likely that the following season would be doomed. At this point, it was pretty much impossible to compete against Juventus, who were taking Italian football by storm. They hardly qualified for the Champions League, finishing 3rd and losing to Barcelona again in the round of 16. Nothing changed for the following season, with the board not being able to pay huge sums to sign star players. Milan was set to remain in mediocrity, failing to go past the round of 16 again, and the 7th place finish in the league. Allegri was sacked. Every season after that was pretty much a copycat of the other ones. Low budget signings, several managers sacked, finishing 10th in 2015, 7th in 2016, and 6th in 2017. In that year, Silvio Berlusconi decided to sell the club to Rossoneri Sports Investment. But the situation didn't change. Even though they went big on spending, most of these players didn't succeed at Milan, and they remained for the 6th season in a row out of Champions League football. In 2019, the board will make a decision that's gonna change the trajectory of Milan forever. They chose this man as manager. With no prior trophies, no European experience, this was a risky decision for sure. But there wasn't much to lose after all. This is already rock bottom, and there is only up from here. Milan entered this summer with a new approach, signing young players who were either neglected by their former club and are hungry to prove themselves, or coming from a lower end club for a better opportunity at winning titles. Mixing that with experienced players like Ibrahimovic and Simon Kjaer, the likes of Theo Hernandez, Franck Kessié, Ismail Ben Nasser were all shaping up the future squad of Milan. Now it is hard to make a radical change in the first season, so they finished 6th, but this group showed a lot of potential. A 4-2 victory against Juventus for the first time since 2016, the future is nothing but bright for Milan. 2020 comes around, and some more young players join the club, like Sandro Tonali, Brahim Diaz, and Kalulu. With a very hungry squad with so many young talents and an ambitious manager, Milan announced themselves as one of the strongest teams in Italy for this season. They lost the final race against neighbors Inter, as they didn't win any of their big games against Juventus, Inter, and Napoli. But this is normal, considering how hard it is to reclaim that big team aura. But a 2nd place finish, qualifying for the Champions League for the first time since 2014, it was a huge improvement for the team. In the following season, Milan managed to get Mike Maignan, one of the best goalkeepers in France, to replace Donnarumma, who went to join PSG, for a better shot at winning titles. Some other key signings like Tomori, Messias, and Giroud, this had to be their season. They deserved it. And it was. They won the Serie A after 11 years. The draw was punishing for them as they were placed in a group of death alongside Liverpool, Atletico Madrid, and Porto, failing to qualify for the round of 16. But, as they say, one step at a time. In the current season, Milan kept all of their young stars. They are 2nd in the Serie A behind Napoli, who's probably gonna go and win it all if you ask me. They are in the round of 16, facing Spurs in Champions League. This feels natural. Milan, Champions League, Serie A, you know the vibes. We can safely say that the big Milan is finally back. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.